So I saw this article yesterday on the New York Post, and it was quite intriguing. Right here, activists demand Black English be pushed on kids in California preschools. That is not the article. So the New York Post had an article that says activists demand Black English be pushed on kids in California preschools, and you guys know what Black English is, right? It's just Ebonics. I remember I was 2 years ago or a year and a half ago, I was tutoring a student in SAT English. And so, you know, with the SAT, they had the reading and writing portions, they combined it. And there was a disclaimer that said, yes, while we hold to the standard practices and grammar rules of English, that doesn't negate or invalidate other forms of English, for example, Ebonics or Black vernacular English, which are just as valid, they said. And I'm like, bro, like we're so cooked. Every single institution has been captured by this ideology. Every single institution, even College Board, even the SATs and the ACTs have been captured by this DEI nonsense that caters towards the lowest common denominator and seeks to subvert everything that is good in society and to destroy all semblance of standards and decorum and dignity in society. So let's read this article together. There you go. Black activists are pushing they're pushing for Black English to be taught and legitimized in schools. Activists are pushing for Black English to be legitimized in preschool as a way to build children's literacy skills in California. Notice it's never just high school, middle school. They always start with preschool and kindergarten. Leftists always start with preschool and kindergarten, whether it comes to the gender stuff, the transgender stuff, the porn that they're pushing in schools, and obviously this nonsense. They always start in preschool. Why? Because they understand you have to capture them at the very youngest to inculcate them with the values that they want. The Black Californians United for Early Care and Education, Black East. It's so long. It's just like a typical Black woman, right? You just ramble on for decades and decades. It's part of a movement to challenge harmful language hierarchies and affirm Black English as a legitimate rule-governed language rooted in Black history, culture, and community. Yeah, it's just... The movement also seeks to address how language bias shows up in early learning spaces and how it can be dismantled. I don't want my son to walk into any room and feel like his voice is not valued or his perspective can't be heard because he's not saying it in one way or the other, the co-founder of Black East, Ashley Williams, told PBS. Yeah. I get it. The female impulse, the compassionate impulse to include everyone. But like I said before, that is healthy. That female impulse to include everyone, make sure no one's excluded, that is healthy in the context of, let's say, your local church community, your local neighborhood, July 4th cookout, your barbecue. Maybe there's a community gathering in your local town. Yeah, like that's when it's good. But then once you scale it to politics and when you scale it to education, it's actually very destructive. Because why should someone who can't speak proper English feel included and seen and heard? No, actually, if you can't speak proper English in America, learn proper English. That should be the solution. That is the answer. Not to say, oh, my son's way of speaking is just as legitimate. Like, how far are we going to take this? If a preschooler comes in completely unable to speak and their mode of speaking is just goo goo gaga, woo woo wah wah, should we legitimize that as an authentic form of standard English? I mean, how far are we going to take this? Either we have standards and rules or we don't. And exceptions to the standard and rule do not disprove it. But I'm sorry, I don't want kids going around speaking like he was gonna do this. We finna pull up to Wendy's, gang? She been finished that project, though. Skirt. Ain't nobody know what that dude doing, though. We was kangs and she. Like, is that the kind of English that we want? And all this does, where we want, right? Because Black Americans are heritage Americans. I'm not like a white ethno-nationalist in the sense of I think that America can only be and should be only purely for whites only. Because the reality is at the founding of America, yes, there was the majority were white Anglo-Saxon Protestants with a small minority, a cohort of West African descendants. And those West African descendants who they don't know where they come from, their names and their lineage has been cut off. So then most of Black Americans' last names have been the last names of their slave owners. So in that regard, like, where are they going to go back to? I mean, maybe Lincoln should have repatriated them as much as possible in the 1800s, but obviously that's not feasible anymore. So yeah, like, Black Americans are in my opinion, they are heritage Americans. But then what was good about after emancipation, Black Americans tried to assimilate into white Christian Anglo-Saxon culture as much as possible, which is why, like we say all the time, by every single metric except for total wealth accumulation, the Black community was better in the 1900s than they are right now. Because they were trying to live a more dignified life, not committing crime, upholding the family, going to church together, loving the Lord, praising the Lord. That's why you have your own Black gospel tracks, which is really catchy and very groovy. I really enjoy it. And you had Blacks try to be educated. Literacy rates were higher in the 1900s under Jim Crow than it is right now for Black Americans. I mean, by every single metric, Blacks were doing better because why? They're trying to assimilate to a better culture, which is Christian culture, Christian Anglo-Saxon American culture. But now, by doing this, you not only disincentivize assimilation to a broader culture so we have national cohesion, you also are trying to put them down and telling them in their lower state that it is legitimate, it is valid, and what you do is you don't allow them to live more dignified and honorable lives. And so what actually happens as a result is further fragmentation, further division, and as an immigrant, as someone who is a naturalized American, I don't want to see that. Like, I actually do want to see unification among Americans. But in order to do that, we have to have something worth unifying over. We have to have a common culture, common heritage, common values, but most importantly, common language. If we don't even have a common language, there is no way that you can unify. Think about the average American suburban life today. You're going to have someone who is Indian who speaks Hindi, and then you have a Black American who speaks Ebonics, and then you have an Asian who speaks Chinese, Asian family, and you have a Arabic family that speaks Arabic, and then so you're just not going to have any cohesion. Now, how are you supposed to come together? You can't. So at the very least, you should have a common language. But they're trying to destroy that. Activists are trying to get rid of that and then legitimize a lower form of English, which is not even English, which violates all the standard rules of grammar. And yes, of course, we all understand linguistically languages evolve and grow over time. But either we have standard rules and grammar and a way of speaking, or we don't. And language is something that we have to preserve because why? Language is auditory and written symbols that allows us to communicate the ideas that we understand and also communicate what is the objective of language? The objective of language is communication of the truth. Christ is the divine logos. He is the originator of truth. And so preserving your language and having a cohesive language is existential. It is literally civilizational. And so you might like laugh at this, you might meme on this, but they're trying to introduce this into preschool classrooms as early as 4 or 5 years old. Understand, like, this is pernicious. This is not just funny and laughable and clown world. This is pernicious. And this will probably be implemented in the next few years. So if we don't want to see further fragmentation and we want to see actual unity in America, we have to be willing to put our foot down against the enemies of America and say, no, we're not going to tolerate this nonsense. And so I just want to show you this meme, which this is true, not the video. So right here, this is what, if you're wondering what Black English is, this is what it is. Right? Is we getting? Of course, the proper grammar would be, are we getting? But is we getting food stamps? Is we getting stimulus checks? And that is the culture that we shouldn't cater towards. A parasitic, opportunistic culture, a ghetto culture that can't even speak proper English, that looks to leverage and game the system to be freeloaders and take your hard-earned money and just allow them to subsidize their own degenerate baby mama, truly like ghetto lifestyle. Is we getting food stamps? Is we getting EBT? Is we getting free money? Is we getting stimulus checks? And that's real, by the way. It's not AI. I remember during the EBT controversy earlier last year, or this year, it was, like you look up Google, is we getting? And that's all, the top results was, is we getting EBT? Is we getting food stamps? And it's a problem because, according to stats, according to the National Assessment of Educational Progress, which is a sector of the U.S. Department of Education, 84% of Black students lack proficiency in mathematics and 85% of Black students lack proficiency in reading skills. You don't believe me? Watch this video. This video went crazy viral on TikTok and all over social media. Black students trying to read a very simple sentence.
A suit, clothes that were... Who's this for? Extraordinary, but somewhat... Gertrude?
Now explain what that means.
I don't know.
She wore a sahalat of clothes that were extraordinary, whatever, bro, but somewhat gooch.
What does that mean?
She wore a lot. Wait, she wore, bro, I don't know, bro. Can you take the card back, please?
She wore...
All right, so you see that, of course, I mean, it was a simple sentence, right? You look at the sentence, and it says, she wore a silhouette. If you can go back to it. She wore a silhouette of clothes that were extraordinary, but somewhat gauche. How do I, as an Asian immigrant, how am I able to read that? And Black Americans who have been here for generations can't read that. Next video.
The deputy had a permutation of the The deputy had a permutation of the impotent and catastrophic event.
What does that mean?
The deputy painted a picture of the catastrophic event before it even happened.
The deity had a premonition of the impending cataclysmic event.
What does that mean?
It was a big event. It was like astronomically bad. That's what it means.
The deity had a promotion of the impending cataclysmic event.
What does that mean?
The deity has to be like a group of people. Promotion is getting up to something, right? Do they even say that? Don't even say promotion. Premonition? Bro, give me that for card.
The deity had a premonition of the impending cataclysmic event.
All right, now what does it mean?
It means what it says.
Paraphrasing.
The deity had a premonition of the impending cataclysmic event.
What does that mean?
The deity, right, is obviously some type of angel or whatever. Premonition is a vision. Impending is like pending, I think. Like, so you had a little vision of a great disaster.
Read that in this.
Hey, at least a Black guy at the end, at least a Black student at the end understood it. But yeah, the deity had a premonition of a cataclysmic event. I mean, that's not a hard sentence. But for the majority of Black students, like we said, 86% of Black students are reading under proficient levels in America. I mean, think about how crazy of a number that is. Meanwhile, the majority of Asians are reading above a proficient level. The majority of Asians are reading above a proficiency level in America, while black students can't even read at the proper levels. The majority of them, 86%. Like, this is a problem. So to rectify that, we have to hold them to a higher standard, but then to hold them to a higher standard is apparently racist. So I don't know. Who actually cares more about black people? Those who would excuse their bad state versus those who would call it out and try to improve their bad state? I don't know. But I'm just a racist, apparently. But I actually want better for the black community. That's why I was very vocal about commending Kai Cenat when he took a break from streaming and he started to read. Unfortunately, he's back and now he's screaming all over the place and in his basement. But yeah, I mean, that's good. It's a good thing to aspire to be educated and to understand the language which you speak. But, you know, what do I know? Apparently, I'm just a racist who hates black people.